Well, hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Tribute Talk Faux Real. That's Faux Real, as you can see up there. My name's Greg Thompson. I'm your host, and I'm also producer of the Sunburst Convention of Celebrity Impersonators. And I have a special guest tonight as Mr. George Trullinger, man of many faces and voices, and we kind of have a lot of things going on in common, our parallel lives there. We do a number of things. So how are you, George?
I'm good. I enjoy. Hey, before we get started, I just want everyone to know you've tuned into America's favorite game show. It's a new hit in the afternoon. Now you have to guess what's in the box.
Hey, wait a minute now.
I knew you did. Now, it's something that a lot of people used to have. Nobody has it anymore.
Jobs.
A lot of people. No, that. No, it is a beta tape. Remember those?
Yes.
Now, I did that especially because I wanted to bust you about the about the game show. If you haven't seen Greg's show in the afternoon, it's really cool. Guess what's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in the box? It's very nice. It's
fun. It's fun. People are enjoying it. I'm getting a kick out of it myself.
As you know, I started worked with Sherry Ray, and we started Legends in Concert in 1983.
Yeah.
So when I was a kid. I was 22, and when I first got some money, I went to a place in Las Vegas. And I bought a Beta Max, and I bought a Beta camera, and I went all around, and it was really fun. And in those days, when the mob was running it, when these guys were running it, you couldn't take pictures, and nobody had cameras and everything. But if they saw you take a picture, they would give you a warning, and then if they had to tell you twice, they would a big bodyguard or a big guard would open your camera and expose all the film. Just pull it out and say, and today it's just,
Yeah, you've got it on your phone. Now, let me ask you this. Right. When you say you weren't allowed to take a picture, do you mean in shows or out on the street or anywhere?
In the casino, in any place in a casino, you couldn't do it. But they had a business, those camera girls, and they had the big cameras and they had the short little skirts and everything. And you'd be in a booth or get at a table getting ready to do a show. And they'd say, would you like a picture? And they were like, at the time, it was a lot of money, $20, or they would try to sell you a package, and sometimes you watched people, because that's the only picture, the only proof that you had that you were in Vegas. So I went out and I've got a Sony Beta Max and a camera, and Johnny Stewart, I asked him, I said, hey, is it all right if I just go around and take video? Absolutely. You do what you want. I took it from the rafters and from backstage. So I've got all this stuff. So now you put the clock up until today. I had all of these tapes. I must have 50 of these.
No kidding.
From the 80s, from 84 on, until I got the next format. I didn't
That's
have
gold.
anything. I didn't have anything to play it on. And for my birthday, a week ago, I turned 60. And my mom, I had this old Sony, same machine that I bought back in 84. I found a guy on the net, mailed it to Texas, and it came today. And I have been sitting here in my music room, watching Sherry Ray and all the people from the early days of Legends. We had a guy in our show named Eddie Carroll who did Jack Benny. And he was fabulous. It was unbelievable, just like Jack Benny. Do you know what his other job was?
What?
He was the voice of Jiminy Cricket for Disney.
No kidding.
For 37 years. And
wow.
He was an actor and just the most interesting guy. So I've been sitting here in my music room all afternoon watching tapes that I haven't been able to play on anything for about 25 or 30 years. And going back to 1985, I spent all of this afternoon in 1985.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to be doing put together a documentary, and or a kind of a film, and it's going to be a big project. But I just thought I'd do a little what's in the box just in your honor.
Well, thank you very much. That has got to be so much fun to go there. Oh my gosh, I forgot that I recorded this.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of because there was a lot of drinking in those days too.
Oh yes. And I'm sure, especially in the showrooms, it said drinking and smoking going on.
Oh my gosh.
During the show.
So how you been, Greg, since our lunch in Winter Garden?
Yeah, no kidding.
All of our plans, all of our big plans to do shows together and to entertain. Although I do have an idea that just came through today that I want to talk to you off air about. So just remember.
Well, cool. We'll talk about it when we finish the broadcast, and then I'll go ahead and tell you one of the things that I am hoping will come back. And George, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I missed the era. I was born too late. On one hand, I was born too late, and on one hand, I was born too early. But because I love technology and all of this stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
But I missed the supper clubs. I missed that.
Yeah.
And with social distancing now, I'm thinking, if I had the money, that's one of the first things that I would put up is a supper club with a stage where you sit at the table with your party, and that's social distancing because you can put the tables far enough apart and enjoy the show. Because personally, I would be willing to pay more money to go and sit down at a table and watch a show like that.
Ironically, we were talking about this, all we really have with this pandemic and the lockdown is time to think.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't use the excuse anymore. We had a honey-do list. We can't use the excuse, oh, gee, I don't have the time. I'd love to do that. I'd love to paint the house. I don't have the time. I painted the house. I did a little bit every day. This was in the early days of the lockdown. But we've got an awful lot of time to think. And I want to say this on a positive note because, naturally the subject comes up. I've done a couple of other interviews with the cruise company, and everybody is scrambling to operate in this, what's going to be the new normal. Mm-hmm. And as things begin to open up, did you ever, Greg, think that you would see a day, I know I didn't, when Vegas would be boarded up and closed and Branson, Missouri was open for business?
Branson's open?
They're doing shows in Branson. Legends will open in Branson, I believe, Tuesday.
That's right.
June 25th. But now, in that big theater, the Dick Clark Theater that they have there, it's over 1,000 seats. It's 1,040 or something like that. I've done 3:00 matinees in that big theater for 75 people, and it looks like nobody was there. Mm-hmm. So their new normal or their new sellout number with the social distancing will be 250. So if you do, so that's the problem to have a great big theater. And even with 400 or 500 people in it, it sometimes would look a little sparse, but
yes.
Hey, 400 or 500 is a pretty good number. But if they can do that consistently, and then down here where we live, it's my contention that the villages and the over 55 communities on our side of the footlights, Greg, it's not going to change very much. Mm-hmm. It's the audience.
Right.
It'll be the same audience with more elbow room, just spread out with a little more room. And the people, the entertainment people that coordinate the talent and the shows and the activities at these places, it'll be up to them to figure out the social distancing. So that's my thought going into it as Florida opens up 25%, and now I think restaurants are 50 and what have you. A lot of people are doing the one man broadcasts, the live shows and things, which are great. But I think you're right. They are going to have to do it. Ironically, something like a format like the old drive-in movies could come back.
Yes.
Remember that? That was distancing.
Yeah, we've already been contacted from one of our friends that we were already booked, the Sweeney Family Band, and they want to do they want to do a drive-in concert. So they've got the people to come in and set up. They basically just come out of our board, and they have an antenna, a line going out into the middle of the area,
Yeah.
and that will broadcast about, I think, about 300 feet circumference, and people tune into their radios and they can watch the show and listen in their cars. Um, One of the things that I'm going to do, this is one of the things, we haven't thought through everything with Sunburst at this year. We're moving forward, because I think it's better to move forward than to go ahead and cancel it and then we come up on it and go, oh man, we could have had it anyway.
No.
But one of the things that I'm going to do, because it's still going to be a concern, I am going to set up, how we have the chairs set up theater style at
Yeah.
Sunburst. Not going to do that. I'm going to do the tables. I'm going to put 6 tables, or five or six in each row. So if there's a party of 2, they get their own table. If there's a party of 6, 3 go on one table, 3 go on the other table. And I won't nearly I'll have about half as many people, but it'll be kind of a classy atmosphere with sitting at the tables and everything. We'll just tell everybody to clap twice as loud.
What is the date on that? In September?
September, the whole convention is September 2nd through the 6th, but the showcases are September 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
Okay. See, by September, right now it's a new concept. Everybody's afraid. And I will say this too to your audience, and believe me when I tell you this, this is not about any kind of politics. This pandemic is happening all over the world, but this isn't some small country. This isn't, Ecuador or some desolate part of Mexico or something like that. This is the United States of America. And the old adage, necessity is the mother of invention. That's what's going to happen. And
that's what's going to happen.
That
absolutely
somebody, and it's the same whether you talk about the current situation that we're in, or some kind of a technology, or these devices that we have in our pockets that connect all of us. Somebody was working on that in their garage once upon a time, and now it's a worldwide thing. And I think that where there's a need and where there's a problem, we're in the state of Florida and home of the space program. We're the people, we're the nation that sent man to the moon and got him back and had a space program and participate in the International Space Station. So I think great things are possible. I really think that it's important to open up with all of the safety in mind, with all of the, but it has to open up, or you're going to wind up with a lot of, there's mental problems and domestic problems, and
we'll figure it out.
Absolutely.
We'll figure it out. And
absolutely.
Well, I was going to say something that slipped out of my head, but yeah, everything. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I compare it to when, and I said this 6 weeks ago when all this first came in, and I said, you know what, this is why I say, on one hand, I was born 20 years too early, because I love all of this technology. Everybody knows I love social media. And I'm right at today. I'm going live again tonight later on, and I'm going live 4 times a day. So I'm loving it. So when this happened, it's not that I go out and I seek to see the positive side of things. They just pop up in my head. If I see something bad happens, it just pops in my head that, oh, that's a horrible situation. You know what? We could salvage this by doing this or that. And I kind of saw it that way. I said, I'm going to embrace social media more. I'm going to embrace going live more. And I think everybody should do that, because 150 years ago, there were people who said, I'm not going to use that silly telephone thing they came up with. If I want to talk to somebody, I'll get my horse and buggy and drive to their house.
It wasn't that long you got a message through to somebody by Pony Express. Really,
that's true.
In the history of the country and the universe, I will tell you that I'm very hopeful that we can innovate, and I think with sports, and I feel one of the groups that I feel really bad for are the graduating seniors, high school, college. Man, what a big thing! And you remember back to your graduation, what a fun time! You worked really hard to get to it, and these poor kids are going to just get their certificate in the mail. And some people are doing some things, or if you're planning a wedding,
Mhm.
Our friend Roger Byers, with the Orange Blossom Opry, he's in the
Yeah.
funeral business. He
Mhm.
runs mortuaries. He says people are still dying. They're not having funerals. There's
Yeah.
no imagine that,
Yeah.
Uh,
Do you know Monica Leamy and Jonathan?
uh,
Monica comes to Sunburst. She does Gwen Stefani.
oh yeah. Of course.
Yeah, her father passed away last Sunday, and they can't figure out what to do. You
Yeah.
can't figure out what to do. But I'm going to switch gears a little
Yeah.
bit on us,
Sure.
and I want to, in case someone is watching, they're like, okay, who is Greg and who's that guy he's talking to? If you if you happen not to be in the tribute world, then that's understandable. But if you're in the tribute world and you don't know who George Trullinger is, you need to step up your game a little bit. This gentleman was in the original cast of Legends in Concert in Las Vegas in 1983. He mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
where did you start out with the show with Buddy Holly? I always get
Yeah.
confused because I know you were a Beatle,
I was
and
the
then
first. I was the first act. I always tell this story. I parked my Volkswagen, my 65 Volkswagen Beetle, on the side of my parents' house in Huntington Beach. And I said, I'm going to Vegas. I'll be back in 3 weeks. I had a 3-week contract. And we did opening night, and, the show changed a little. And the band started off in a booth, which became the green room later. And we said, hey, if you're going to call it Legends in Concert, you got to have the band on the stage, and really, let's do a concert. Let's do a rock concert. And a lot of changes. But the original reviews for the show were nice little show, should last about a month. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to get an extra week.
yeah,
I'm getting, hey, Mom, Dad, I'll be back in 4 weeks instead of 3 weeks. And I lived at the Imperial Palace, and the show kept getting renewed every 90 days. And I lived at the Imperial Palace, and every 90 days it would go up. And then finally they said, we have an indefinite run. And today it is the longest running show in Las Vegas history. And the virus shut that down, but it shut everything else down too, And I remember, Roy Horn just passed away. And we used to go to a gym. It's kind of hard for people to imagine, but Las Vegas truly is a 24-hour town. And we used to do 2 shows and then go to the gym from about 1 until about 3 or 4 in the morning, and then go somewhere, go bowling or have breakfast or something. This is back in the 80s, So we worked out at the same gym as Siegfried and Roy, and we got to talk with them, and they were really great guys. So of course they were the kings of Vegas in those days. They invited us to their show, and we all sit ringside and everything. And we were there. That was at the Stardust. They were starring in Beyond Belief. And at one point of the show, magic and all these specialty acts and martial arts troops and things like that. But they came out, and I remember Roy had a little baby white tiger cub, and he laid out the whole dream. He says, we're going to start breeding. They're endangered in the wild, and we're going to start breeding them. And they had 2 kittens. That the whole thing started off with that. And then, of course, they moved to the Mirage and had the white tiger habitat and all that stuff. And thanks to Siegfried and Roy, our grandchildren will be able to see live white tigers because they were, and I'll never forget. And they brought them around, and we actually got to pet them. We were really sitting ringside, and they were just tremendous.
Don't tell Carol Baskin you petted a tiger.
Oh man, I still haven't seen that. Everybody talks about it. I'm a little afraid. I've seen some clips of it, and it just looks.
I watched it when it first came out because I'm like, what are these memes? What are these memes? And then I'm like, oh, it's this thing called Tiger King. So within 15 minutes, I was hooked. I'm like, oh my God. And there's murder involved, and there's other stuff. And I had some friends to go, I watched that because you were posting about it on Facebook, and I hate you now. Because,
isn't that funny?
Yeah, because they were like, that was stupid. That was horrible. I said, I didn't say it was good.
Oh.
But it's, and like as far as documentaries go, it's a good documentary. They did a really good job with it. But the people who are in it, you're like, there are people in this world like this.
Yeah, come to Florida. You know
Yeah.
that there's a radio station down here, and every night on the news they have an episode, and now it's time for another episode of Florida Man, and it's some dumbass thing that somebody from outside of Tampa or Plant
Yeah.
City or some horrible day. The other day it was a woman. They said, "Well, it's Florida woman,"
Oh,
and there was
geez.
a 34-year-old, and I believe alcohol was involved. She was like a kissing bandit. She was going around this bar where everybody's trying to social distance, and she's kissing everybody. And they threw her out, and she's all, I'm guessing, drunk. She called 911 9 or 10 times. The cops show up. All she had to do was leave, and they wound up taking her away.
I was going to say, you could get arrested for that.
Just crazy,
Well,
but it's Florida.
Years ago, guilty pleasure. One of my favorite television shows, and thank goodness it's still on the air, is Cops. I love Cops. I can watch that show and feel so much better about myself.
That's like people who watch Hoarders to feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
Well, this house is a mess. And you watch Hoarders and you go, it's not that bad. Look at me. Look at me. I haven't thrown anything away for 35 years. Look at this.
The other show that came on was America's Most Wanted, and I loved America's Most Wanted. But the thing that happened 3 out of 4 times when they would do the recap of America's Most Wanted, they would always say last seen in Florida.
Yes, absolutely. And when the cops show up and the guy hasn't got a shirt, and while they've got their guns pointed at him, he's lighting a cigarette. This guy's going to jail.
I like the ones who always go, can you give me a cigarette? They got their hands behind their back. Can you give me a cigarette? And they're like, no.
Can I say goodbye to my girlfriend? And she comes out and she got her teeth. Hey, speaking of America's Most Wanted, you want to hear? Now this is a true story. It's really sad, but you said America's Most Wanted. Mm-hmm. Here's a trivia question for you, and it's not the kind of thing that you plan, or it's one of those things, but it really did happen in Las Vegas.
Okay.
The first person to play Elvis Presley in Legends in Concert, opening night, he was in the show for a couple of weeks, was a guy named Dana McKay. And boy, you talk about, you're in the lookalike business. This guy looked like Elvis. He really, truly did. He was in the movie This Is Elvis. He portrayed Elvis coming back from the army when his mother passed.
Kidding.
And he was in that movie. But if you looked really fast, if you just glanced at his promo, his headshot, you would go, oh, Elvis. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait a minute. That guy, that's incredible.
Really?
Dana McKay, and you can look this up, and I hope you do. So Dana, he was a great guy, and he was a professional Elvis impersonator, but he was a little pitchy. Mm-hmm. He was a little pitchy. So he left. He opened the show for a couple of weeks. He went from closing the show to opening the show, and Sherry Ray closed the show as Janis Joplin because she was very vocally very strong. So he had left the show. They brought in Jonathan Von Brana and a couple of other guys, Pete Wilcox, and with the idea, hey, you go work on your voice, take some voice lessons, and you can come back. Well, he never came back, but he still continued. He played in South America, did all this stuff. So I was getting off a cruise ship in the 90s. And at any rate, Dana, during the time when Las Vegas was exploding with growth, over 10,000 people a month were moving to Las Vegas. Wow. And the Mirage was just getting ready to open. He borrowed $30,000 from the mob to start a palm tree business in Las Vegas because people were landscaping and he had this big chunk of land around his house. He borrowed the money from a nefarious source, got $30,000 worth of palm trees delivered and it snowed in Las Vegas.
Oh my God.
All of his palm trees died. And the Mirage, they had just landscaped the whole front of the hotel, getting ready to do it. And all of their foliage died. And they ripped it out. They were working 24 hours a day to get it ready for the opening. He couldn't pay it back. So I got off a cruise ship, the Big Red Boat in Port Canaveral. And they said, no, way before cell phones. And I got off the ship and they said, there's somebody that wants to talk to you. I said, really? And I went to a payphone. And it was somebody from America's Most Wanted. And I said, hey, what can I do for you? And they said, we're reenacting the Dana McKay case. I said, what happened to Dana? They said, he was found killed. Him and his girlfriend were shot execution style. And if you look it up, it's still a cold case.
No kidding.
They did it twice on America's Most Wanted. So they actually hired a guy. They hired an Elvis impersonator to play an Elvis impersonator. And they reenacted it. And he had borrowed money from the mob, couldn't pay it back. And they sent somebody to his house. And both he and his girlfriend. But look that up. It's still a cold case.
Dana McKay. I'll have to look that up.
Dana McKay. And
wow.
So the first guy to play Elvis for Legends in Concert opening night was whacked by the mob.
Son of a gun.
Now that
you can't make that up.
You can't make it up. You can't. That would make a documentary. And I've seen stories. Look, but that's just one of many, many stories.
Oh, I'm sure. Some folks are saying hi to us, but the feed that I'm getting, it's not showing their name. So whoever you are saying hi, we're saying hi back.
Hey, everybody.
We got hi guys, hey dudes, and I do see Elizabeth Christopher in there, and she said, "Ha, do it." So she said, "Do something we were talking about doing earlier."
Okay.
Yeah. All right, then we'll do it.
You and me, we're going into the drive-in movie business.
Hey, let's go. You know, do you know anybody we could borrow some money from?
Oh no. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, let's don't go that route.
No, heck no.
So George started out as Buddy Holly with Legends in Concert, but you also have performed as Mick Jagger.
Yes, Mick Jagger.
And your most recent big thing has been portraying Ed Sullivan with the Fab Four.
That's right. And you know, in our business, and I hope all the and you know, if you're not watching it live, you can watch the replay. But all of our friends, what a family we have there at Sunburst. And I like to encourage everyone to support the Sunburst Convention. If you're a tribute artist and you haven't come, you owe it to yourself and your career. If you're serious about what you do, you need to come to Florida and fellowship with all of your peers. You know, they have in every other profession. If you sell cars, they have a convention. If you're a mortician, they have a convention. Any business where they get together and they swap ideas, you network. The seminars are invaluable, especially to the newbies, the people just getting started. And you know what I like to say, and remember, when we first came to Las Vegas, the only other impersonators were in shows called Boylesque and then later on La Cage, were men dressed as women, drag artists. So, and today the impersonator business is so big.
And you know what? One of the wonderful things. Oh, it's Sean Fredericks is in the room. That's who it was.
Sean!
Yeah.
What's going on? But remember us playing at the MGM in that big dome? Oh, it was great. He's great. John Lennon.
Absolutely.
He's a drummer. Just a great entertainer, man. We had a good time.
And the other one is Billy Buchanan.
I know Billy. Man, Billy Buchanan. Man, oh man, what a talented cat. He's good. Yeah, Billy Buchanan. I did that in your memory, Billy.
There you go.
He's a jamming dude, man.
Absolutely. He does a number of characters as well. Celebrities.
He's great. Have you seen his live podcast?
Yes, I have. I
Really?
catch it. I jump in every now and then.
I want to do one, but guys like Billy just intimidate me. You know what I mean? Because you're always your worst critic, you know. And I don't know. Me singing a Hank Williams song is nothing like Billy throwing down.
I know what you mean. And what's weird for me is the type of performer that I am. MC, and then I've started doing the Southern Greg Thompson show and everything like that. And I'm so used to getting immediate response from the audience.
Oh my gosh.
That it's tough to get in front of a camera and there's nobody clapping or laughing and you're going, was it good? Did they like it? I don't know if they did or not.
Well, see, this format right here, it's like I'm talking to you. It's like we're sitting across at a table like at that restaurant in Winter Garden. Yeah. But when you're just doing a podcast, I don't know if you can see yourself or whatever, and there's no applause. You don't know if it's going over. I have a good friend of mine, Hal Bruce. He lives up in Nova Scotia, and he's a one-man show, just him and his guitar. Tommy Treadway. They're you start getting artists of that caliber, and it's a little intimidating. But I want to do it. I learned Ricky, Don't Lose That Number. I did. I wrote a parody song. You want to hear a little bit of it?
Absolutely. Please, sir.
It's a COVID. All right. You know the old and Billy Buchanan. He does does a lot of Chuck Berry. Now, Billy, I'm going to do this, man. Don't steal my bit. Go ahead. I don't care. You know, they locked down in Boston, Pittsburgh, PA, deep in the heart of Texas, up in the Frisco Bay, all over St. Louis and down in New Orleans. Everybody is locked down with COVID-19. You got COVID-19. You just got to have a whole lot of protection and wear a big old mask. It
That's
goes on
great.
like that.
That's great.
And we did that.
You should absolutely do that. You should absolutely.
Oh yeah, I'll do a video of that.
The one thing that if I can get it in my head is that, I used to be a radio DJ. So I was used to, that was my thing. You sat in a room and you talked to yourself and you played records. So that I can do. And I tried, you may have seen me, I've tried to do DJing on Facebook Live, but I don't own the licensing. It doesn't work. They send me messages and say, you're using license. I'm like, I know, but who do I pay?
Did you read my post, my response to that?
Yes.
I likened it to, on the Titanic, when the ship sank and the band played on, that'd be like a union rep finding the band that played as the Titanic sank. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense. Technically, You're right. Technically, there's copyright. Technically, you can, we're making it up as we go along.
That's
we're trying to adapt. We're trying to, as they say in the movie, The Outlaw Josie Wales, we're trying to endeavor to persevere.
That's it.
That's the line they gave the Indians, endeavor to persevere. And that's exactly what we're trying to do.
You just got a question. Said, isn't that the Beach Boys song that Chuck Berry sued them over because he said it was too much of a ripoff of his song Sweet Little 16?
Sweet Little 16 turned into Surfing USA for the Beach Boys.
Okay.
And they wound up settling out of court and giving Chuck Berry the writing credit. So if you look up who wrote Surfing USA, it says Brian Wilson and Chuck Berry.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, getting back to what you were talking about. Yeah, my thing was, yes, I know copyright laws, and I think everybody should get paid for their work for writing the songs. But I've got 35 people watching. It's
the principle of the thing. You know what I mean? It's really, they should suspend the rules a little bit. They should say, you know what? These people are struggling. We don't have work. Just let it slide. Now, when things get back to normal, we were talking about, I think they're talking about playing baseball in an empty stadium, and they've already done NASCAR, which the television ratings were through the roof, No
kidding. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. And don't you think it's just my opinion. Wouldn't it be better to have some people than no people?
Mm-hmm.
Social distance. You got a baseball stadium or a racing, the Daytona Speedway. If you had a race there and it holds 75,000 people, wouldn't it be, or a baseball game or a football game? Football season's coming up. Wouldn't it be better to have half the people there,
Mm-hmm.
half a
Had nobody.
stadium,
Yeah.
than nobody? It just doesn't make sense to me.
George, Michael Walter said that he loves you, and he says George's hair looks great. He looks 10 years younger.
Well, I'm older than white thread, Mike, and I love Mike Wally Walter, man. In fact, you and I, that was the last time we played together.
That's right. That's
we
right.
We got to work Hank Williams Sr. into the Sweeneys somehow. It's just that's the only time we get together,
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, a couple of things have popped up. I think people are starting to think, and they're thinking, hey, I've got entertainment. I can do this. And it goes right along with social distancing. So I got a call from a good friend yesterday and said, hey, I got this idea and you'd be a great MC for this. And that's what's going to happen. So I think I'm thinking things too. That my trouble is, George, and you may be in the same boat as I am. During this time, I don't sit around going, man, I don't have anything to do. My mind starts going and I go, I got too many things to do. I got too many things I want to do.
We've got nothing but time to think and ponder. And you have to purposely stop watching the news because it's all doom and gloom. And they're
so many cases today, so many deaths, so many this, so many that.
I hate it. I hate the division. But again, this is America. We're gonna get out there. We're gonna live. We have to live our lives. We have to, and do it safely, do it sensibly, do it. But we have to do it. And once we start with the 25%, and I think Florida has a real opportunity to show what the possibilities are. Of course, we got great weather, but that real hot, sticky, muggy weather is coming with the afternoon showers.
It is.
My idea is for places like the Villages and the over 55s, twilight concerts. Get there about 3 p.m. Set up on a golf course. Take the nets down on a
tennis
courts, whatever. A lot of these places have a pavilion. I've played
absolutely
on these pavilions where people they get there in the afternoon. They stake out their lawn chair. The only difference is, like I said before, on our side of the footlights, it's not going to be any different. We're going to do the same show. We might have to look and work a little harder to connect to an audience that's spaced out.
I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly
totally. We have to get back. We have to get back to live performance. And I want to share something with your audience. Maybe you don't know. Maybe I think we talked about it though. My grandmother was in vaudeville. She played on Broadway. She was a dancer.
I don't think I knew that.
She toured around. She did shows with Will Rogers. Her career lasted from 1928 until 1931, the height of the Depression. And she lived in DeLand. She lived here in DeLand and had a little house. I pass it every once in a while and think of her. And she told me, when times are tough, I'll never forget this. When times are tough, that's when people need entertainment more than ever. And I think we're going to see a real resurgence. She performed when shows were like a nickel. That's where the term Nickelodeon came from.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's going to be a resurgence. Like after World War II, there was the war years, the big band era. But when the war was over, the 50s and all the great rock and roll and television and suburbia and all of this stuff. And after tragedy, I think we saw a bit of it, certainly a surge in patriotism after 9/11. But when there's a big event or there's a period, usually a war or something like that, afterward, it's a real big time for entertainment. And, if you think
I'm counting on that.
Think about the Beatles. The
Mhm.
Beatles came along just weeks after JFK's assassination in Dealey Plaza.
That's
The
true.
country was numb. They needed something to get them out of their funk. Here comes the Beatles, and they opened the door for the British invasion, and that opened the door for the 60s, and it just took off.
Well, I tell you what, I'm really enjoying doing these sessions, this Facebook tribute talk for real. I started out as a podcast a year ago, did 14 episodes and let it slide, but people seem to really be enjoying this video. And the cool thing that's coming out of this, George, is talking to other tribute artists, people in the business, and they're coming up with these ideas. And I talked with Scott Mason earlier, and he had an idea that, you know what, with tribute artists, they're self-contained. They can come in by themselves. They don't have big bands and a whole troop of people coming in. And you're talking about doing outside concerts. I'm sitting there going, we've got the Sweeney stage, and it's decorated Sweeney, but it's not hard to decorate it and look nicer. We can roll that in somewhere, do an outdoor concert, tell people to bring their chairs up, and that stage can be used for tribute artists, comedians, bands, whatever. And maybe we just need to roll into these places and and set them up, and need to tell them, hey, we can roll into your grounds and do a show for them. So anyway,
I think that's a great idea. I think it's a wonderful idea, and innovation is what's going to pull us out of this, and perseverance, being positive. You know, it's awful easy to throw rocks at somebody's idea, but it's very hard. It's a hard thing to pick up the ball and run.
it is, and that's been a blessing for me and a curse for my wife sometimes, because sometimes I'll get an idea and go, okay, let's do it, and I forget about all the, but what about so and so? But what about so and so? I will deal with it when we get to it. Let's just end game. George, I would not do this to most other people, but I've known you for many years now. I've really enjoyed your friendship, and I know that I can go to you and say, George, pick up that guitar and give us a song, and you're on the money. You're ready. George and I, by the way, didn't plan anything, and we certainly didn't plan what we were wearing, and we kind of matched tonight.
Well, what do you want to hear, Greg? We could do Bob Dylan sings the hits of the Beatles. It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog. We can do Hank Williams. Your cheating heart will make you weep. You'll cry and cry. Or we could do some Buddy Holly. Well, that'll be the day when you say goodbye. Oh, did someone say Elvis?
I was getting ready to say that.
Well, the rest of my soul, what's wrong with me? I'm itching like a man on a fuzzy tree. Who do you think of when you have such luck? I'm in love. Oh, shook up. Oh. Boy, I wish Billy Buchanan was here. Man, we'd have a ball. We'd have a 9-hour show.
Maybe you know what? One thing, we tried this with the Sweeneys, and maybe we need to try it again. But, you know, we can get 3 or 4 of you. We can get up to 6 people in this room at a time.
Wow.
So all I would have to do is, matter of fact, I could put the link in the comments right here, and a couple of people could join us. Let's just try that. You don't have anywhere to go, do you?
Yeah, I'm late for my job.
Yeah. So I just put the link in the comments so folks can actually click on that, and we can bring them in the room.
Now this sounded crazy. I was going to make a joke and say, yeah, I got an 8:30 show at Walmart. I was thinking the other day, we could do a show here at Walmart.
That's true.
You know,
pull up the trailer and here we go.
Why not?
Somebody called the other day, day before yesterday, and the guy said, "Hey, we're actually putting on an outdoor show for a family, for a big group of 150, big picnic, and they got a band coming, and they wanted to do social distancing, and they wanted to know what I had entertainment wise." I said, "You know what's really good entertainment wise for something like you're talking about it, because it was a family thing." They said, "Yeah, we're looking for like a balloon artist or something." I said, "Why don't you do a stilt walker balloon artist?" And he's like, "That's a great idea." I said, "Yeah, because they're up, you know, social distancing." He said, "Yeah." He said, "Do you have anybody available for Sunday?" I said, "I don't know. I'm going to have to check our schedule. Hold on for a second."
They're pretty booked up. We're going to send Santa and Mrs. Claus your way. It's going to be, I know it's May, but
Hey, yeah,
Get a jump on
exactly.
it.
But you know what? I think Santa's going to be making a lot of online appearances this year. That's a big business for us, and
No
I
more,
don't.
no more kids, no more kids on your lap though.
Nope, nope. As a matter of fact, we're get in case somebody wants it. We're looking at it that no kids on the lap, but they can sit next to Santa.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, George, do you have any extra thoughts for us? We're going to wrap this up here. Nobody else is jumping in the room. Maybe their hair needs combing or something. I don't
No
know.
worry. Oh, I know mine does.
Your
I
hair
know.
looks great. I've never seen
It's
it this color. It's usually dark.
oh yeah. It hasn't been this long since I've kind of got that I've kind of got that Mike Brady look.
Yeah, you do. I'm wearing a hat, and I'm going to be wearing a hat because I did two things that I should not have done. One, I'm allergic to yeah, I did that. I cut my hair and then I dyed it, and not my thing. I'm not
Well,
good at it. You're not supposed to cut your own hair anyway. So I'm like, I'll just wear a ball cap.
yeah. It's a funny thing. I had a beard a couple of weeks ago. I didn't like it,
Yeah.
but everybody does a little bit different. The Fab Four is doing a one of those um, uh, uh, where there's four people. They're going to do a show. I guess they're all going to be together at the shop, but they're doing a show called Let It Beard. They're going to do the 50th anniversary of Let It Be. So if you tune in for that, I think that's May 25th, and
Okay.
it's going to come back, folks. I want everybody to just be positive. There's so much negativity in the world, and there's so many just talking heads, talking nonsense,
Blah
and
blah
trying
blah
to
blah 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 blah.
fear and all of this. This too shall pass. Stay
Mhm.
positive. Listen to music. And if you're an impersonator, a tribute artist, let's get together at the Sunburst Convention. And hopefully the world will be a little different than it is today, a lot different
I think so.
as far as opening up. And it just gives you more options. If you're already planning for the social distancing and say there's a circumstance that comes up where we can accommodate more people, well, then whatever the parameters are,
We
the
will
show
work within them.
the show
Absolutely.
goes on. It has to
Yeah.
go on.
That's it. Well, George, as always, I enjoy you, sir. You and I could sit around and talk for a couple of days. I feel
We have.
confident. We have. This is true. This is true. But
Greg,
everybody,
thank you. Thanks
you are very
much.
welcome. Hang around just a second.
Will do.
Just hang out there, and so tell everybody bye, George.
Bye, everybody. Hey, send me, if you come across the garage sale, send me those beta tapes. I got something to watch them on now.
All right. Be good. I'll talk to you in just a second.
Thank you. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
All right, everybody. This has been Tribute Talk Faux Real, and my guest today has been George Trullinger, who does a number of things and just an all-around great guy. And I can imagine how much fun he's having tonight watching all those beta tapes that he's not been able to watch in 25 years. But thanks for joining me. And if you are in the tribute business and you would like to be a guest on Tribute Talk Faux Real, it's just for fun. And what else have we got to do, right? So anyway, you guys be good. Have a good day, a good night, and bless your heart in the good way. Good night, everybody.